Hey students, this is one of the few videos where I am actually not going to require that you take notes and upload a picture of them in order to receive credit for this Edpuzzle. Instead, you have three options. Option one is to just use the digital version of the notes that are posted to Google Classroom. Option two is to actually print out those notes. However, I do believe you need to print them from a device that's not a Chromebook. And option three is to still take notes if you would like. However, you do not have to attach a picture of them to the Edpuzzle. So our section today is 8.1, which is all about 3D figures. And our learning target is I can find the number of faces, edges, and vertices of solids. So in order to do this successfully, there are actually some vocab terms that we need to learn. The first one is the term solid. In math, what is a solid? A solid is a 3D figure that encloses a space. So let me show you an example of that. I know I'm really tiny over in the corner, but if you look in the corner, you will see me holding up this cube, this box. So this box is an example of a solid. That is because it's 3D. You can pick it up and move it around, and it encloses a space. All of the sides, all of them have cardboard on them, the top and the bottom. So it completely encloses the space inside. Now let's say I took the lid of this off instead. So now the top is open. This is not a solid anymore. A solid has to be totally enclosed. It has to be filled in on every side. We will specifically be talking about a type of solid called a polyhedron. A polyhedron is a solid whose faces are polygons. So all that means is that all of the solids that we will be learning about in this chapter, they're all going to have faces, flat sides, that are polygons, things like triangles, rectangles, squares, pentagons, etc. We will not be learning about cylinders. This Starbucks cup is kind of an example of a cylinder. There's circles on top and bottom. We will not be learning about those. And we will not be learning about spheres. Spheres are the type of shape that a globe is. So polyhedrons have three main components, and they are listed on this figure right here. First one we're going to talk about is a face. A face is a flat surface of a polyhedron. So we can see this red rectangle on top. That is called a face. A face should always be some kind of shape, like a rectangle, a triangle, something like that. On my cube, on my box here, each of these flat sides is called a face. It's a flat surface. You can run your hand along it like this. The next term is an edge. An edge is a line segment where two faces intersect. So faces are actual shapes. Edges are just lines where those shapes connect. So this is an edge. This line is where the top and side faces connect. This is also an edge. It is where these two side faces connect. So this line is an edge. And finally, we have the term vertex. A vertex is a point where three or more edges intersect. So on my cube here, we have this top edge. We have this edge over along the other side, right? They meet right there. And this edge here. So those three edges all come together at this one little point, this corner. So faces, flat surfaces, actual shapes. Edges, line segments. And vertex, a vertex or vertices, are points. So one of the main things you're going to be asked to do during your assignment for this section is actually find the number of faces, edges, and vertices on a specific figure, on a solid. So let's do that with this figure right here. We're going to find the number of faces, edges, and vertices. Vertices is just the plural for vertex. So remember, faces are those flat surfaces, those actual shapes. So we need to count all of the different flat surfaces on this figure. Well, I see there's a front rectangle here, so that's 1. Then there's a rectangle here, that's 2. There's a rectangle on the other side, that's 3. And then I see a trapezoid on top, that makes 4. But remember, this is a solid. That means it's fully enclosed. So there is a back rectangle as well and another trapezoid on the bottom. So don't forget the back and the bottom. So all together, that makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces. If I were to count the faces on this guy here, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. Top makes 5, bottom makes 6. Next, we have edges. So edges are those they're those line segments, What I like to do is I like to put a little dash through each line segment that I count to make sure I get them all. Be sure you are including those dashed line segments as well, because those are still there. They're just behind the shape. You just can't see them from the front. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 edges. Let's do that again on this figure. Let's see how many edges we have. Well, I see there's 4 along the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 along the bottom. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I have all these sides. 9, 10, 11, 12. So this one again has 12 edges. And finally, we're going to count those vertices. So each vertex is a single point. They actually put these little green dots on all our vertices for us. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices. And let's do it again on our cube here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices up here, and 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices there. So this one also has 8 vertices. Now, our last 2 things we need to learn are 2 very specific types of polyhedrons that we will be talking about in our next couple of sections. The first one is a prism. So a prism is a polyhedron that has 2 parallel identical bases. The lateral faces are parallelograms. So what I mean by that is that a prism, if you pick up a prism, you should be able to put your hands on 2 different sides, 2 faces that are completely on opposite sides from each other. They're parallel to each other, and they should be the exact same shape. So if I pick this up and my hands are opposite of each other and they're touching 2 shapes that are exactly the same, that means that this is a prism and my hands are touching the bases. The bases. All of those sides that connect the bases, those are called lateral faces. And in a prism, all of those lateral faces are going to be some kind of parallelogram. So in other words, a rectangle would be an example of a parallelogram. So again, a prism, if you pick up a prism, your hands should be opposite of each other, touching the exact same shape. Those are the bases. All of the other faces that connect them are called the lateral faces. The lateral faces. Okay. The next term is pyramids. A pyramid is a polyhedron that has 1 base. The lateral faces are triangles. So in a pyramid, we're not going to pick it up with our 2 hands. It's going to sit on a flat surface, and that surface it's sitting on is called the base on the bottom. Then all of those other faces, those lateral faces that are on the sides, those are all triangles. You've probably seen a pyramid before, like the pyramids of Egypt. It's important for us to know that the shape of the base on both prisms and pyramids tell us the name of the prism or pyramid. So on our prism, when we pick it up by those 2 bases, whatever shape the base is names the prism. So our example here, we have triangles that are the bases. So this is called a triangular prism. If they were rectangles instead, we would call it a rectangular prism. In pyramids, the same rule applies. Whatever the base is, whatever shape it is, names the pyramid. So if there's a rectangle on the bottom, it's called a rectangular pyramid. If we had a triangle on the bottom, we would call it a triangular pyramid.